This is Dolynny TV. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel today, and a video a lot of you would have probably preferred if I would have had up last night. However, the news on Jesse Puljujarvi and Jujhar Khaira, roster players that we are in fact control of, had to get done. So now we get to that meeting between some agents and the Edmonton Oilers and guy named Brett Connolly. Yes, that's what you guys were absolutely wrecking me on the comments last night. I loved it. I appreciate that you guys are on top of the news like that, always driving it. And the fact that if I miss something, you guys will have it in your stock of everything you're taking care of for Oilers land for your own knowledge. So today, with that said, let's get down to it and let's discuss it. Brett Connolly, a potential free agent match for the Edmonton Oilers, a right winger, a young guy, 26 years old. And what I'm looking at here is, just to throw it out before we get to the stats, is he this year's Alex Chiasson for the Oilers? That's kind of what I'm saying. However, you'll look at the stats here in a second. I'll pull up the stats in just a second, and we'll get to those as to why he probably isn't. But a guy coming from Washington, that's strike number one on the Chiasson thing. He's a Campbell River, British Columbia native, so interesting fact there for you as well. And actually, hold on, let me go over to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's Burnaby. I thought Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was Campbell River. That's my bad. That's all good there. So, we don't need to worry about that connection. Tried making some, didn't work. Anyway, Brett Connolly, Western Canadian boy, that's the match is there. So, now you look at Brett Connolly, 6'3", 195-pound player on the right wing. We could use that. Definitely a guy who drives play, forces the game around, and gets things going hard. That would not be a bad thing at all. A guy who started his career in 2011, 2012. The guy seems to be around forever at this point. Started at 19, so no wonder. Had 15 points in 68 games way back when. Was a -9 with the Tampa Bay Lightning as they were trying to figure out how to become the powerhouse that they became this year. Then played 5 games in his 20-year-old year. That kind of sucks. 11 games the next year. Well, no shocker. Played 50 games in Tampa in 14-15. Ended up shipped to Boston for 5 games in 14-15. Stayed in Boston in 15-16 for a 25-point, 71-game played season. And then all of a sudden was over to Washington in our playoff year, in which he went 66 games, 23 points, a +20, so a solid go for him. And then you have the Cup win for Washington last year. He's a 27-point player in 70 games played, so you average that over, he probably would have hit 30 points in 82 games. And then you have this past year, which I already referenced, 46 points in 81 games played. You do the math on an 82 CPA, the number I love to use to judge guys over a career production average of 82 games, 29.765 82 CPA. That's not going to solve every single problem in the Oilers world. However, you got to minute cause it, right? You got to look at what things have kind of transitioned, trends and stuff over his career. As he's gotten going in Washington, he's only gotten better. 23. Next year set a new career high in points at 27, and this year blew it out of the water at 46. Get back to what I was saying about this year's Alex Chiasson. Well, possibly was he already a similar case to Alex Chiasson last year? Possibly, quite possibly, but I'm not too sure exactly the role Brett Connolly had in Washington this year. A guy who, by all accounts, just gets better with time by the looks of his stats. So, what do you make of the Oilers' interest in him? Well, obviously, that guy who, if he just put up 22 goals, 24 assists, he can dish the puck and score the puck just as well as he can do either. So, you match him with a guy like Nugent-Hopkins, or you match him on the top line with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's exactly where you end up going with the Brett Connolly interest, is the fact that you sit here, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, if you're going to pair him with Joakim Nygard, Jujhar Khaira, if you're not going to spend money on a second winger for Nuge, Brett Connolly is probably about the best solution you can find in one winger, right? A guy who will be able to set up Nuge when he has a chance to score, and he'll be able to finish when Nuge sets him up. That's exactly what, Leon Draisaitl, or not Leon Draisaitl, Toby Reeder was supposed to do with Nuge or McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, given any game he was playing with them. However, he didn't finish a single goal, so odds on bet, can you bet that Brett Connolly will be able to finish more goals than Toby Reeder? That's essentially what this move looks like. But no, that's not all it is you have to, if you're going to sign Brett Connolly, you're most likely not re-signing Alex Chiasson, in my opinion. Now, we haven't heard much about Chiasson's plans, so we'll wait on it. We'll hear back, and we'll hopefully get him back, because in a third-line role, it wouldn't be that bad. If you had Gagner, Kara, and Chiasson on that third line, I think you could do some definite damage. I know Gagner is still a guy to be traded, but you look at the forward group, Gagner is a very valuable piece to that forward group as it sits right now. And I mean, he had 10 points in 20 games. So we sit there and we add a piece to the top six. And this is not the piece that will play with McDavid. This is not the piece that will play with Nugent Hopkins. This is this magical piece, ladies and gentlemen, that I've been talking about for 2 months now, that can do both. That's what I'm asking for. Brett Connolly is a guy who can go play with Nuge, can play with McDavid, whatever the nightly situation dictates. He can elevate his game or bring a different element on the second line. That's exactly what the Oilers have been missing for a long time now, when you come to consider what Patrick Maroon did for a couple of seasons, and you consider the past 2 years, and yeah, we've been missing that guy that can play par here and then elevate, or go down and play par. That's the big question, if Brett Connolly is the guy to do it. And now you have to get into, obviously, the price tag question on it. Yes, they're interested in each other, but why are they interested in each other is the question if you're Brett Connolly and the Edmonton Oilers. I saw somewhere on Twitter that someone mentioned that it's possibly a question mark of $4 million times 4 years. I know the secondhand source said it was Elliot Friedman. Do I buy that? I really actually don't buy that at all. If you're spending $4 million on Brett Connolly, Ken Holland's going to have to give his head a shake and not doom this roster worse than Peter Chiarelli. $4 million on Brett Connolly. I don't care if it's just a rumor or if it's fact. It's too much. It's absolutely too much if you're the Edmonton Oilers. If you're signing Brett Connolly is that guy. If you know he can play with Nuge, if you know he can play with McDavid and Draisaitl, he is that guy that can elevate up the lineup. Then he's a guy that you spend that $3.25 million on. That's it. That's the max. You can't go out there and spend more. And I mean, I tried to justify Jordan Eberle for maybe 3.75. If we were lucky, 3.25. I can't remember. It was somewhere in the threes. Well, we weren't that lucky. So you sit here and have to realize that you can't go out there and spend half your remaining cap space on one forward. It doesn't work like that if you're the Oilers. You need to go out there, spend maybe a maximum of that 6. That way you leave 2.3 plus the Brandon Manning contract to be moved, $4 million to allow yourself in case of injury, to allow yourself in case of anything. Well, then you have it at the deadline. That's kind of what I'd have to argue there. So guys, that's the big ugly on Brett Connolly, is the contract. What's the contract going to look like? I love him. Don't get me wrong. I love everything Brett Connolly brings. And as I said, he's that guy I've been looking for personally as an Oilers fan. So the question is now term, contract, and what can he actually physically do in the Oilers lineup? We've looked at the stats. I hope you've taken a look at the stats. And we'll look for it a little bit more later once we get to July 1st. We're still 5 days away. There's still plenty of time to go in between this, guys. So I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. What I want you to do in the comments section down below is go on, scroll down, but I want you to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, or if you're returning for your 10th time and still haven't joined the fan group. Well, you got to do it. You got to get in so you get the comments or you get the videos quicker, guys. I'm cooked. It was a long, hot day on the truck, but essentially, I also want you to think about hitting that bell that's there. That gives you a notification out to your phone or your laptop or whatever. That'll just tell you I've posted that much sooner, and that way you can get on and get the videos and get in the comments right when things are fresh. Guys, hit me up in those comments. I want to try and interact with you a little bit more today than I did yesterday. I'll try and reply to comments from yesterday as well. I am up on out of here.